Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Balarama Das Prabhu with us. He's under the training for taking sannyas, and he's going to be traveling around the world, spreading and preaching the names of the Lord, glorifying the names of the Lord. And today we happen to be the most fortunate ones to have His mercy. We're going to listen to Prabhu talk secrets of success and how to avoid failures in Krishna consciousness. So, Balarama Das Prabhu, please.
You usually chant Balarama Das Prabhu. You usually do that? Okay. I can take it. Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. All right, I'll just chant the Sanskrit and then we could read the English. Nashcharyam etad yad asatsu sarvada mahad vininda kunapatma vadishu sresham mahapurushapada pangshubir nirastate jasu tadeva shobhanam. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good, because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. Purport. Everything depends on the strength of the recipient. For example, due to the scorching sunshine, many vegetables and flowers dry up, and many grow luxuriantly. Thus, it is the recipient that causes growth and dwindling. Similarly, Mahim Yasam Pararajopi Shekam, the dust of the lotus feet of great personalities offers all good to the recipient, but the same dust can also do harm. Those who are offenders at the lotus feet of a great personality dry up. Their godly qualities diminish. A great soul may forgive offenses, but Krishna does not excuse offenses to the dust of that great soul's feet. Just as one can tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's head, but cannot tolerate the scorching sunshine on one's feet. An offender glides down more and more. Therefore, he naturally continues to commit offenses at the feet of the great soul. Offenses are generally committed by persons who falsely identify with the impermanent body. King Daksha was deeply engrossed in a misconception because he identified the body with the soul. He offended the lotus feet of Lord Shiva because he thought that his body, being the father of the body of Sati, was superior to Lord Shiva's. Generally, less intelligent men misidentify in that way, and they act in the bodily concept of life. Thus, they are subject to commit more and more offenses at the lotus feet of great souls. One who has such a concept of life is considered to be in the class of animals, like cows and asses, donkeys. Om Ganativarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Maditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Kadijavachalam Pangam Langa Tegirim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitaranam Vancha Kaptiribhisha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation again. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of materialistic persons is very good, because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personalities. So I visited here twice before, 2017, 2019, Hong Kong, and I went over to Shenzhen as well. So yeah, I'm back here for the third time. I was supposed to give the talk in 2019, but the Sunday evening was canceled because there was some, I think, rioting going on. So I guess I owed the Hong Kong Temple a Sunday feast talk. So I'm here. On the way to India. I'm leaving tomorrow. So so this particular verse, it's mentioning how by offending great souls, by offending devotees, one is diminished. Another, or one is diminished, one is destroyed, one is ruined, their life. Now, when we talk about offenses to devotees, it's said that there are 6 types of offenses towards devotees or towards a Vaishnava. Does anyone remember what one of those 6 offenses are, or you could guess if you want? There's 6 different ways that we can offend a devotee. Anyone want to say one way?
Ego.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we express our ego in a particular way to offend somebody. How would we do that? Do you have an idea?
One is to fault find,
Yes, that's true. To find fault in a devotee. Okay, we'll read here. It says, first of all, this one's very obvious. The first one. It's not difficult to understand how this is an offense, but this is listed in Scripture, by the way. The first, one way to offend a devotee is to kill a devotee or kill a Vaishnava. That's pretty clear offense. Another way is to blaspheme or to criticize a devotee, a Vaishnava. Another way is to feel malice or feel hatred towards another devotee of Krishna. Another way is to not greet him upon seeing him, become angry with him, and not feel happiness upon seeing him. So these are the 6 different offenses towards a devotee. Now, if we think about this last one, not feeling happiness upon seeing a devotee, someone may question, well, how is this an offense if I'm not feeling happy when I see a devotee? Well, that not feeling happy or not feeling pleasure or joy while seeing a devotee is a symptom of what's going on internally. For example, if let's say I have a very good friend and I spent many years with him serving Krishna. Like I have many good friends. I've lived in the temple for about 18 years, so I have a lot of good friendships with people. But sometimes people, they move out of the temple naturally. So a lot of my friends have moved out of the temple and they moved to different places in the world. or in the States. So if I haven't saw one of my friends for many years, and then he walks into the door, I'll be very happy. Oh, my friend's here. I haven't seen him for so long. It's a natural joy. But if, let's say that I'm speaking ill of somebody, or I'm thinking ill of someone, and I'm saying, oh, you know how that person, they did this and they did that, and you're talking bad about somebody. And then if that person walks in the door, then I'm not going to feel very happy seeing them. So in other words, if we are positively thinking of another person, we'll be happy naturally when we see them. So in that way, it's an offense, because the idea is it's a symptom of how we are thinking of that person, whether we're happy to see them or not. So these are the 6 offenses towards a devotee. Now, someone may ask, okay, well, who is a devotee? Who is a Vaishnava? Because we're talking about it. If you look up the word devotee in the dictionary, the English dictionary, it will say a person devoted to something or someone. So when we say who is a devotee of Krishna? We're talking about devotees of Krishna here. So who is a devotee of Krishna? It's an interesting question. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna come again 500 years ago, around 500 years ago, he gives the definition of a devotee. And he gives a very interesting definition. He says that one who chants the holy name of Krishna once, he is considered to be a devotee. So there's a lot of people who chant Hare Krishna once. And then he gives another definition. He says, Asat Sangha Tyag E Vaishnavachar. A devotee of Krishna is one who has given up the association of non-devotees. That's another definition. But there's some more definitions in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Acharyam eva haraye pujam yashadayehate natad bhakteshu chaneshu sabhakta prakritasmrita. He gives there's a definition of 3 devotees. Ishvara tada dineshu balisheshu dvisatsucha prema maitri kripopekshya karoti samadhyamaha. Sarvabhuteshu yat pashyat bhagavad bhavamatmanaha bhutan bhagavat yatmani yesha bhagavato tamaha. So these are the 3 different definitions of devotees. So one is that it's considered the Kanishta Adhikari. They have great faith in the deity. They have the great faith of the deity that's established in the temple. Of course, every class of devotee has great faith in the deity, but each class has something more than that. So a Kanishta Adhikari has great faith in the deity, but doesn't know how to deal with people or devotees properly. In other words, they just see God in the temple. They don't see God anywhere else. That's the definition of one devotee. The next class, the Madhyama Adhikari, they offer all their love to Krishna. They make friendships with the devotees. And they avoid the envious. I'm missing, what's the last one? Make friendships with devotees. Avoid the envious, give all the love for Krishna, and make friendship with devotees. Did I say that? Yeah. Make friendship with devotees, offer all their love to Krishna, avoid the envious, and what's the last one? Does anyone remember? Huh? I'm supposed to know, right?
offering their grace to
Oh yes, okay, I remember now. They offer all their love to Krishna, their friendship, they make friendships with the devotees, they avoid the envious, and they give mercy. They give Krishna's mercy to the innocent. They try to help people in Krishna consciousness. So that's the Madhyamadikari. And then there's the Uttamadikari. Uttamadikari it's a very there's different definitions of Uttamadikari, but here in the 11th canto, the definition is that they see God everywhere. Everywhere they see God, and all moving and non-moving things. So that covers everything. They see God everywhere, and they think that everyone besides them is a devotee. So they don't feel that themselves to be a devotee, but they feel everybody else to be a devotee. And therefore there's no need to preach, because everybody's already a devotee. So it's a very high platform. So these are some definitions of a devotee. Because when we talk about offending devotees, naturally want to know, well, who is a devotee? So there's different definitions. Because sometimes people may think that this principle of sadhu ninda, sadhu means a saintly person, ninda, offending a saintly person, this just refers to the uttama adhikaris, to the top devotees, or the madhyama adhikaris. It doesn't refer to any devotee. But actually, there's many references in scripture that it doesn't just refer to a devotee who has developed all good qualities. Like in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tatikshava, Karunika, and so on. A person who has developed mercifulness, a person who's very merciful, friendly, tolerant, all of these wonderful qualities. So when we talk about offending a devotee, it doesn't just refer to this type of devotee. But it refers to even a person who is a very bad character, a cheater, devoid of proper behavior, malicious, devoid of samskars, and full of worldly desires. The scripture says if such a person has surrendered to the Lord, they must be considered a sadhu, a saintly person. What to speak of a pure Vaishnava. So many times Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, he would quote a particular verse defining a sadhu. And it was a very interesting verse that he would quote. Because again, you would think that he would quote something like Tatikshava, Karunika, a devotee is very tolerant, merciful, friendly, and so on, peaceful. But he wouldn't quote that verse. He would quote a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. I think it's 940 or 941. He would quote the verse, Api chet sudarachayo bhajate mam ananya bhak. That even if a devotee is seen to engage in the most abominable activity, if they are determined, if they are sincere in serving me, Krishna says, they are considered to be a sadhu, a saintly person. So Srila Prabhupada will quote that verse describing a sadhu. It's a very interesting verse to quote. Now, in that particular verse, Krishna is not giving us a loophole or a way to cheat. That, okay, I could be a devotee and I could just do anything I want, any nonsensical thing I want. But it's referring to somebody who is trying and failing, and trying and failing, trying and failing, eventually to be successful. Just like Srila Prabhupada would say about somebody trying to ride a bike. I mean, maybe some people, I guess, grow up not riding bikes, but I think most people grow up riding bikes. when you ride bikes, you fall down. That's what you do when you ride a bike. You fall down because you haven't learned how to ride a bike. But eventually you learn how to ride a bike and everything's fine. Or Srila Prabhupada give the example of walking. Definitely we've all learned how to do that. Some people don't learn how to ride a bike or don't learn how to swim, but we've all learned how to walk. We're all walking here. We walk to the temple today, I suspect. So in the process of learning how to walk, we all fell down many times. So, but then eventually learned how to walk and then run. So similarly, the idea is that within Krishna consciousness, to find somebody who is completely steady in Krishna consciousness and nearing perfection is very rare. And a lot of people, most people, they're in the category of failing from time to time, falling from the standard. Now, this particular falling from the standard, it can be transcended through the mercy of devotees. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. In other words, by the mercy of devotees, by the blessings of devotees, we're able to be successful in Krishna consciousness. And by offending the devotees, we fell in Krishna consciousness. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have here, to my right, you have Krishna with Kaliya, the snake, famously, dancing on the heads of Kaliya. You also have here to my left, there's also another carving of Krishna dancing on Kaliya. So Krishna was there, he was bound up, right, for, it says 2 hours. He was there bound up by Kaliya. And all the residents of Vrindavan, they're on the banks of the Yamuna, Madhya Yashoda, all the residents of Vrindavan, they're about to lose their life because Krishna is bound up. And then eventually Krishna, after some suspense, he breaks out and then he starts dancing on the heads of Kaliya. He doesn't kill Kaliya, this serpent. His wives actually save him. They offer so many wonderful prayers. But in relation to this particular pastime of Krishna dancing on the heads of Kaliya, Kaliya was in this particular place of the Yamuna River, very poisonous place of the Yamuna River, and he was taking shelter there because that place, Garuda could not come. So you have Garuda, we also have Garuda here, back here. So Garuda is a pure devotee of Krishna, Vishnu. He's Lord Vishnu's carrier. It's a very wonderful position. He's always carrying Lord Vishnu around. So Kaliya was taking shelter of this particular part of the Yamuna, and Garuda could not come there. And there was a particular reason Garuda could not come there. And the reason was that there was one great yogi, Sabari Muni. And he had some pretty impressive powers. The power he had was, sometimes you hear of yogis who can up in the Himalayas, they go underwater and they transport themselves very far, miles of distance through their mystic power. But this yogi, Sabara Muni, he was meditating under the water. for years. But what happened was that Garuda, he came to have his lunch, have his his food, and because of his particular body type, that of like a bird, he's not a vegetarian. He has fish. So that's what he would do. He'd come to the Yamuna and he would get fish. So Sarbara Muni, meditating under the water, he developed some friendship with these fish, and he was upset. He was angry that Garuda was doing this. So he told Garuda that if you come back to this river, Yamuna, and try to do this, with all of my mystic power, I'm gonna curse you to die. So he told Garuda that. Pretty much he threatened his life. So that's why Garuda wasn't coming there, and that's why Kaliya was allowed to be there. Now, after this particular offense of Sarbara Muni, although he was meditating there for so many years, the Yamuna, and he had control of his senses. I mean, you have to have control of your senses to meditate on the water for so long. Sometimes, we may have a hard time meditating for 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So he had real control. So he was meditating under the water. And at the particular time, he saw two fish, and Srila Prabhupada uses the word copulating. In other words, they're engaging in sexual activity, fish. So at that particular point, Sarbara Muni, he became mentally disturbed. He became, desires came to his heart. And although he was a great yogi, he said, okay, now it's time to leave. So he got out of the river, and and it was a more cultured time back then, so he decided, okay, let me marry. And you know how many women he wanted to marry, or how many he married? Does anyone want to guess? You want to guess? You could guess. Yes.
169.
Less.
That's the what? 50?
What was that?
50.
You got it. Okay. We're going to give you extra halava at the feast. Extra sweets at the feast. So, yes, he married 50. Now, when he emerged from the water, he was very old and, gray hair and old, and he had spent so much time in the water, so he was not very attractive. So they didn't want to marry him, actually. But by his mystic power, he transformed himself into a handsome man. And then they all wanted to marry him. So he married 50 of them. That's quite a lot. And he had 5 children with all of them. And this way, and by his mystic power, he created some beautiful house and all types of beautiful arrangements. And for many years, he was enjoying worldly life. But then he started to realize, he started to think back, what was the cause of all of this? Him giving up his yogic principles, him entering into worldly life. And he was just saying, these 2 fish. And then he started to think like that, and he started to lament. And he was saying that just as by putting any amount of ghee on fire, a fire is never satisfied. In other words, the fire keeps on burning. So he said, similarly, I've tried to satisfy my material desires in so many ways, but I'm still not satisfied. So then what did he do? He went to he said he accepted Vanaprastha, he left everything, and he went and he took up his yogic principles again, and it says he actually attained perfection. He attained the spiritual world, and he brought all his wives with him. They also got the benefit of that. So the idea is that by serving the devotees, by glorifying the devotees, by taking shelter of the devotees of Krishna, then we attain all success. And by offending them, then material desires will enter our heart, and we won't be able to make much progress in Krishna consciousness. And there'll be a lot of unnecessary suffering. Now, someone may say, "Hey, well, Sarbari Muni, he was successful at the end, so similarly, I could be successful. I could offend devotees, and I could be successful." But not all stories are like that. Sarbari Muni is one story. So similarly, people say about a Jamil. Okay, Jamil, he in the sixth canto, he became bewildered. He became attracted to some woman, although he was already married, and then he went off with this woman and entered into worldly life for many, many years. Completely forgot about Krishna consciousness. But then he got a second chance. He was successful. But not all stories are like that. These are rare stories in the Bhagavatam. So yeah, we should do the positive thing, and that's the real secret. The secret is that by serving the devotees we're successful, and by offending them, then that's the process of failure. So does anybody have any question or comment? Anything?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Given how considering sort of the wide variety in real terms of how we can offend a devotee, and how wide is also the the designation of devotee. It's actually quite easy to do.
Yes, that's a good point.
And I think it's actually quite challenging to avoid.
Yes.
And when I think about, also, so when I think about how we are with one another in our society, as devotees who are seeking to pursue Krishna consciousness together, I think just a matter of fact that we very easily and very often offend one another, either directly or indirectly by taking offense.
Yes.
And when you think about that it's even offensive to not meet another Vaishnava joyfully.
Yeah.
And then I think I thought, wow, okay, I definitely offended. And also I have been offensive by taking offense when I have not been, felt that I was joyfully received.
Yeah.
And so given how volatile and easy that arena of experience is, how are we to advance in that position?
So, Tom, right? So Tom is saying that there is such a wide variety, there's such a wide definition of a devotee, like all the way from if you just say Hare Krishna once, you're a devotee, all the way up to you have to be seeing God everywhere, right? So it's such a wide range of the definition of a devotee. And then you're mentioning how there's so many different ways we could offend devotees. So practically it almost seems like impossible to avoid. And then we have an international society, we have our society here in Hong Kong, and so what to do about that, pretty much, right? One thing is that Srila Prabhupada, he instituted that, or he introduced this prayer, Vancha kalpadribhishcha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I offer my humble obeisances to all of the devotees of the Lord who are just like desired trees. They could fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. So this is a prayer that's offering respect to the devotees. So it's chanted every morning in the temple. Now, if we don't visit the temple in the morning, we could be at our house, which should be like a temple, and we could offer that prayer. And we could bow down and we could offer that prayer, and we could think of the different devotees and our sangha and our yatra. And the idea is that prayer is supposed to be like a asking of forgiveness. That's the idea. Now, someone said to Srila Prabhupada that, oh, Prabhupada, I'm so offensive. I have to, if I follow this, that every time I offend a Vaishnava, I'm going to be offering obeisances all day long. Offering this prayer all day long. But the idea is that at least within the morning we should offer that prayer. I mean, if you think about it, yeah, there's not much room. Like, for example, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that you should not criticize a devotee for their being born in a low family. Means a family of meat eaters or whatever it is. You should not criticize a devotee for the sinful activities that they performed before becoming a devotee. You should not criticize them for the sinful activities that they may have done or accidentally done while as practicing Krishna consciousness. And he goes on like that. So then you're thinking, what can you criticize them for? Practically, you can't criticize them for anything. And of course, some people, they say, hey, where's the fun, right? Therefore, we need to refine our consciousness. We need to become very perceptive. And a devotee is very perceptive. They need to become so sensitive, so perceptive that we're always very carefully considering, am I being offensive? Are my activities offensive? How I'm speaking to someone, is that offensive? And so on. And if somebody is what maybe you want to call it hallucinating, in other words, if you haven't been acting offensive, but then they're taking offense, I don't want to say it's their problem, but you're less implicated in that way. Although there's a very interesting story about that. Rupa Goswami, he was meditating in Vrindavan, and he was meditating on Krishna's pastimes, and then he had his eyes closed, and then something funny happened in the pastime, so he began to laugh. And then shortly after, his eyes were closed, shortly after, his meditation broke, and he was wondering, why did my meditation break? So then he asked one of his contemporary Vaishnava, he said, I was meditating on the pastimes and I laughed, and then my meditation broke. And then this devotee said, well, you must have offended somebody. And then he said, well, how do I know? And he said, what you do is you invite all the Vaishnavas of Vrindavan to a feast. Everybody shows up for a feast, right? You invite all the Vaishnavas of Vrindavan to a feast, and you should understand that the person who doesn't show up, you've offended that person. So he invited everybody, and then one person didn't show up. That person had some physical deformity or whatever. And that person thought that Rupa Goswami was laughing at them. But he wasn't. But still, it's such a thing that still there was some reaction there. It's very interesting. So that just shows us how careful we have to be very careful. So as Srila Prabhupada would say, first be conscious, then be Krishna conscious. So to be very conscious of how we're dealing. But when we do offend a devotee, hopefully we don't, but sometimes we do, there's a process to becoming free from that offense. One is to understand that it was an offense, to try to understand. And that's not so easy sometimes. It's not automatic. Just like some of you are married here, I suspect. Now, if your husband comes up to you and says, "I'm sorry," but if you sense that they don't really understand what they did was wrong or offensive, they're just saying it, then it doesn't really mean that much. You want them to understand how it's wrong. So, in other words, there has to be a real understanding of our activity being offensive. And then we offer obeisances to the devotee. We go to that devotee, offer obeisances. We offer praise to that devotee, tell them something about them. Respects. And sometimes it's seen that still a devotee's anger doesn't subside. So it says then we could serve that devotee. It's not that, oh, well, they're angry, forget about it. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that if the devotee's angry, you serve that devotee until their anger subsides. And then, if still their anger isn't going away, and by the way, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he doesn't say that for them being angry, he doesn't mention that their anger being like based off illusion. He just says if they're angry. He doesn't say it's wrong, he just says if they're angry. They're humans also. Then what do? It says you take shelter of the holy name of Krishna. But you don't jump to that in the beginning. You don't say, oh, I've offended this devotee, so let me chant Hare Krishna. But you have to go through that process. So that's what he explains, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah, but it is a tricky thing. So we always have to be praying and trying to be as Krishna conscious as possible, so we avoid those things. We want to come to that platform. Nectar Devotion says, a advanced devotee does not give pain to any living entity. But the opposite. All right, is there any other question?
We have a question.
Okay, comment?
What is more better, success or fail? Like in life.
What's better?
If you want to start success, what is more important?
Success or failure, which one is more important? I mean, everybody wants to be successful.
But if you want to start, then what is more important?
I mean, people fell in the beginning, like Thomas Edison, the light man, right? Spent so many time trying to create the, incandescent light bulb or whatever. He failed so many times. I mean, most people would have given up, that's for sure. But it's like it was at least 1,000 times. So failure may be part of the process, but ultimately everybody's interested in success, materially or spiritually. Srila Prabhupada said that defining success, he met with the Birla family of India, one of the most wealthy families at the time. Srila Prabhupada said about that family, said that no one could measure the wealth of such a family. But he was asked by Mrs. Birla to speak on a particular topic, and the topic was how to have a successful life. So from most people's standards, she had a very successful life. She was one of the most wealthiest women in India. She had a nice family, and but still she wanted to know how to have a successful life. So Srila Prabhupada, he quoted a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritimashita. He said that the great souls, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the great souls, Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim. The great souls, they take shelter of the divine energy, which is personified as Srimati Radharani. And that means that they take shelter of devotional service, the spiritual energy. So in this way, he explained that this is the success of life, to transfer ourselves from the control of the three modes of material nature, which are like ropes that bind us, an illusion, to transfer ourselves from the three modes of material nature to the spiritual energy of Krishna. So that's success. And you do that by chanting Hare Krishna. Yes, you had some last...
Yeah, so what is the three material...
modes of nature? When you read the Bhagavad Gita, if you don't have a Bhagavad Gita, we'll give you one. There's so many Bhagavad Gitas, but we have our Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada. There's a chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, the three modes of material nature, and it explains that everything is categorized within these three modes. For example, food. There's tamasic food, rajasic food, and sattvic food. So tamasic food is had by violent means. It is too salty, too spicy, rotten, whatever. These are tamasic foods. A lot of tamasic foods around. And then there's rajasic foods, sattvic foods. Similarly with music, there's music that is categorized in these particular modes. Music, food, places, people. So in this way, these particular modes of nature, like for example, if someone's too absorbed in sleeping or intoxication or uncleanliness, it's like ignorance, and passion, very passionate to make a lot of money and succeed, and that's about it, And then goodness, you want to live a very natural, peaceful, clean life. But all of these can be binding. They are binding to this world. So the idea is that we want to get free of those modes of material nature and then be in Krishna consciousness. That's the idea. But it's in the Bhagavad Gita, you could study. Okay, so thank you all very much. It looks like it's time to chant Hare Krishna. Thank you.
There you go. So let us all chant one round of Bhagavad Gita first. Yeah, everyone? And you're going to lead?
Okay, sure.
So Balarama Das Prabhu is going to lead. Let's all chant together.
We're chanting around? Okay. 5-minute round, a 10-minute round? 7-minute round? 7 minutes, okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna.